Let's talk about what's really going on in your head when you choose to hit the gym or, hit the snooze button for the third time. It all comes down to this one incredibly powerful and complex force, motivation. And today, we're going to break down the science behind it. To really get to the bottom of that question, we're not just going to throw ideas around. Nope. We are diving deep into one of the most comprehensive guides on the subject ever put together. Our guide for this whole exploration is, well, it's pretty much the authority on the topic, the Oxford Handbook of Human Motivation. This thing is massive, so to make sense of it all, we've got to have a roadmap. Okay, here's our game plan. We'll start with the science of drive itself. Then we'll dive into the mind's big theories, look at how we actually chase our goals, and see how other people and even our own biology fit in. After that, we'll see it all in action in the real world. And finally, we'll bring it all back to you. So let's get started. First up, what does it even mean to be motivated? We throw that word motivated around all the time, right? But if you strip it all back, the original meaning is actually beautifully simple. To be moved, that's it. And right now, the science of what moves us is having this huge comeback, a major resurgence. And it's really happening for three big reasons.
First, the theories are just so much deeper now. They're pulling from everything, neuroscience, evolution, culture, to give us this really rich picture. Second, our tools are like something out of science fiction. We're talking fMRI scanners that let us literally watch motivation happen in the brain. And third, and this is maybe the most important part, this isn't just for academics anymore. This is a science we can actually use to make our own lives and our communities better. And this amazing foundation has led to some really powerful theories about how our minds work.
So, with that foundation, let's get into some of the heavy hitters, the big theories that really shape the field today. You've probably heard of these two, but they are absolutely fundamental. On one hand, you have intrinsic motivation. That's doing something just because you love it. Think about playing guitar just for the joy of making music. On the other hand, you have extrinsic motivation. That's when you're doing something for a reward or to avoid a punishment. You're chasing a paycheck, a trophy, a good grade. Understanding the difference between these two is one of the biggest keys to unlocking motivation. Okay, here's another way to slice it. Think about this. Are you someone who plays to win or someone who plays not to lose? If you're promotion-focused, you're all about gains, growth, reaching for the stars. But if you're prevention-focused, you're more about security, safety, making sure you don't mess up. You're holding down the fort. We all use both, but most of us have a default setting we lean into. Now, this next one sounds super technical, but I promise the idea is incredibly simple. Just think of your brain like the thermostat in your house. It has a goal, right? The temperature you set. It's constantly checking the current situation, how warm it is right now. And if there's a gap between where it is and where it wants to be, it kicks on the furnace. Your brain does the exact same thing with your goals. It's this constant, elegant feedback loop. All right, now we're going to go a little deeper, and honestly, a little darker. It's called terror management theory, and it argues that one of our biggest, most fundamental drivers is something we really don't like to think about, the fact that we're not going to live forever. That knowledge creates this deep, underlying anxiety, and to deal with that terror, we pour ourselves into things that feel bigger and more permanent than we are, things like culture, religion, patriotism, or just building up our own legacy. It's a powerful, often subconscious force. So we've got these big, grand theories buzzing in the background, but what does motivation feel like on a Tuesday afternoon when you're just trying to get through your to-do list? How do we actually pursue our goals? You know that feeling, right? It's 4 p.m. You've been good all day. You resisted the donuts, you stayed focused, and suddenly you have zero willpower left to stop yourself from scrolling on your phone for an hour. Yeah, psychologists have a name for that: ego depletion. The idea is that your willpower is like a muscle, and every time you use it, it gets a little more tired. But then there's the flip side, the complete opposite of that drained, depleted feeling. It's that magical state we've all felt at some point, that state we're all chasing. It's called flow. It's when you're so locked into what you're doing that the rest of the world just melts away. Time disappears, you're not even thinking about yourself. The activity itself is the reward. It is the absolute peak of intrinsic motivation. This brings up a really crucial point. Our passions, our big interests in life, they aren't things you just find, like a lucky penny. They're things you build. It's a process. It all starts with a little spark, something that just grabs your attention for a moment. If you keep coming back to it, that interest can be maintained. Over time, it starts to become part of you, an emerging interest. And finally, with enough dedication, it becomes a well-developed core part of who you are. But of course, we're not operating in a vacuum here. We're social animals, and our drive is profoundly shaped by the people around us and by the very hardware we're running on, our biology. Let's be honest for a second. Our brains are basically our personal hype person. They're constantly working to make us feel good about ourselves, and they've got some sneaky tricks. You ace the test, you're a genius. You fail the test, the teacher was unfair. That's the self-serving bias. And we all think we're better than average drivers, which is statistically impossible. We even tend to just conveniently forget the embarrassing things we've done. These aren't bugs, they're features designed to protect our ego. And this stuff isn't just in our heads, it's hardwired into our biology. Neuroscience is actually mapping the specific brain circuits for things like desire and reward. Evolutionary psychology helps explain why we're so driven to seek status or find a partner, because those drives helped our ancestors survive. And on a daily basis, our basic physiology, how much sleep you got, what you ate for lunch, that's all constantly turning the dials on your motivation. Okay, so we've got the big theories, the nitty-gritty of pursuing goals, the social and biological influences. So what? How does all of this actually show up in the real world? Well, let's take a look at schools. In a classroom, understanding motivation isn't just a nice little bonus. It is everything. It's about how you spark a kid's curiosity, how you help them believe in their own ability to succeed, and how you recognize that a supportive home life is a huge piece of the puzzle for academic success. And this stuff doesn't stop when we graduate, obviously. At work, motivation is the literal engine of performance, whether it's driven by a bonus or a deep passion for the job. And in our health, it's the force that gets us to the gym, helps us stick to a diet, or take our medicine. Understanding these levers is the key to a better life, period. So we've toured the entire landscape. We've seen where the science has been and where it is right now. So the huge question is, what's next? Where is this all going? And the future is really exciting. Researchers are digging deeper than ever into that dance between our conscious goals and our hidden, non-conscious urges. They're moving out of the lab and into the real world, designing interventions to actually boost motivation in schools and workplaces. They're trying to understand how our drives shift as we age, from childhood to our golden years. And they're working to build one big, unified model that connects the biology of our brain to the psychology of our desires. So, after this whole journey, after diving into the deep science of what moves us, it all kind of turns the lens back on you, doesn't it? Knowing what you know now about the joy of intrinsic motivation, about playing to win versus playing not to lose, about the incredible power of flow, what is the one goal in your life that you could look at a little differently starting today?